How's it going, YouTube? We are back again for an instant analysis. This time on the Link to the Milky Way item exchange event cards. I did get a peek of this last night. I was looking in between SBL resets. But we have 6 new cards. We're gonna start off with the free cards because that's how they show up on Kirara. So the free event SRs, the first one is Mirai Boku Ruby, pure attribute voltage type card. Stat line is pretty weak. It's to be expected for a free event card. Tap active is also pretty weak. It's only a 2.4% appeal increase for the next 10 notes to first years. Same thing with the passive side of her kit. Her passive is a 3.2% appeal increase to first years and a 30% chance to increase first year appeal by 3% when the live starts. Again, this is like most free event SRs and stuff like that. This is basically costume collection. But for Ruby Oshis especially, having Ruby on the Fest banner and this be a free card, very good. Second free card is Colorful Dreams, Colorful Smiles Lanzu. Cool attribute guard type card. Again, stat line is kind of meh. 58, 89, 62, 46, 57, 12. Adds 27% of her stamina as a shield. Which it's not a lot. It's not a lot of shield that you're adding. Stam's School is her passive, so a 5% stamina increase to all other Niji cards at max limit break. And then Lanzu is the first card we've had in a while that actually has the Revive live show active. There's only, I believe it's like 4 or 5 cards that have this Revive live show active. And Lanzu, I think, is one of 3 SRs that have this skill. 3 or 4 SRs that have this skill now. But yeah, again, this is basically, just for costume collection. This is not going to be a card you're going to see a lot of use of outside of maybe SBL in the early portions of a tower. Yeah, short and simple. But we have the free event UR, which is Star Seeker Yohane. Cool attribute SK type card, 7266 base appeal, 9302 base stam, and 12,498 base tech at max limit break. The 12,498 equates out to like 52.5, 53% crit rate, closer to like 54, 55 when you add in bomb levels and bomb board and stuff like that. And yes, Yohane finally gets a new card. Her tap active is a stam heal based on her technique, which is really nice because, again, we always want cards with their tap actives. We want their tap actives when they're based off of a stat number. We want it to line up with their best stat. And luckily, with this Yohane as a tech healer, this does exactly that. 32% at max limit break. Tech same attribute. This is a pretty weak passive. As good as tech is for increasing your crit rates and buffing your center 3 gauge voltage and stuff like that, outside of it, you'd much rather have appeal buffs. But this is a 5.2% technique buff to all other cool cards at max limit break. And then her live show active is kind of bad. 30% chance when the live starts. Increase voltage gain from crit notes by 5%. Applies to all other cool cards. Now, you may be thinking, oh, I can backline this on like Sweet Eyes or something. Nah. I would much rather, because this is better for songs that are higher difficulty, Advanced Plus, Challenge, and stuff like that. This is not a great backliner just because it is a tech-based passive, and it's not a guaranteed chance for this live show active to go off. I would much rather just give myself something a little bit more stable. For example, I would much rather, and until another card like it in the same attribute, in the cool attribute comes along, I'm still going to suggest this card. Moon Rabbit Rico is a much more consistent card, and will help your scoring much, much more than something like this Starseeker Yohane. Unidolized art is very cute. Yohane looking like a librarian with glasses. It's weird. Yohane in glasses is it's jarring to me as a Yoho Oshi, but yeah, the card itself is pretty good. If you don't have, let's say, a Moon Rabbit Rico, you don't have First Fest Mari, and let's say you don't have like any like outstanding cool attribute stamina heal card, this can work, right? This can help you for a lot of cool attribute songs if you want to stay on attribute. She's not going to tap as great, but she does have a higher crit rate, which means that the times, like, if every other time you're only tapping for, let's say, 25 to 28k, the other taps are going to go for 50, 55, 60k, depending on what your accessory outlook is like. So she will still score decently, mostly thanks to her higher crit rate. Now we'll get down to the gacha side of things. The gacha SR is Colorful Dreams, Colorful Smiles Kanata. Active attribute SP type. 7317 base appeal, 5644 stam, and 7945 base tech. So leaves her with about a 39% crit rate, which is alright. It's decent for an SR. Gauge Bomb tap active. Ugh. Yuck. No. Not great. Tech same school. Not great. This live show active, depending on how big of a Kanata Oshi you are, might actually help some of you for certain songs. It's a 50% chance to fill your SP gauge by 8% of the card's appeal. So if you are somehow able to get this card's appeal up over 10,000, you're looking at a 12-ish, 12.5% gauge fill at the start of a song if you're playing on an advanced beat map. Which, sorry about that. Which can be a lot, like, especially if you're playing songs with early SP gauges as a requirement, like, let's say, Akita Kita or Melody or something like that. Like, you're always trying to cheat out early gauges. So this card may help, but to me, I think there's a lot better cards that could do basically the same thing. Initial Madu is a really good one. Signal Rena is a really, really good one. You know, people are going to talk about Initial Pana and Bed Kanon and stuff like that. Like, those cards are okay. But yeah, like, this card, again, costume collection, and that's basically it. Now, the first card of the gacha UR side of things is one that I want to talk about. This is Starseeker Setsuna. Pure attribute voltage type, 13,464 base appeal, 9087 base stam, 11,106 base technique. Doesn't have a crit profile, which is kind of obvious because it's a voltage type card. has an inordinate amount of stamina. So this is a lot of stamina for a voltage type card. And once again, another Setsuna card with a voltage boost tap active. Maximum 37% of the card's appeal as voltage with her tap skill. And the passive side of her kit is what I want to talk about. She has an appeal all passive, maximum 4.2%. Her live show active is a 30% chance when the appeal chance starts to increase base appeal by 5% to everybody. Now, if this kit, this backline kit, sounds familiar, it's because we have two other cards like this in the non-fest world, non-fest, non-party world. Initial Kanon has the same 4.2% appeal increase and a 5% appeal buff with her LSA, and Magical Time Nozomi, which again, 4.2% appeal buff and 5% base appeal increase. The difference between these three cards is with Setsuna, who is all the way down here. Setsuna's live show active has a chance to activate when the appeal chance starts. Whereas Magical Time Nozomi and Initial Kanon, their live show actives only activate after you pass an appeal chance. So this could easily give you, depending on the length of the appeal chance, 20, 30 more notes of a 5% appeal boost. Just by having the live show activate upon appeal chance start versus appeal chance completion. Now, the other thing people are going to ask is, hey, Shaz, should I pull this card? It's a great backliner card. Should I pull for it? I wouldn't go out of my way to pull for it. Because, right, you still have superior backliners that can do a similar job but better. First Fest Kanata, Party Setsu. Those two cards are like the, if you wanna designate them S tier, right? Those are your like S tier backliners. Especially for your higher difficulty songs, those are your S tier backliners. Initial Kanon, Magical Time Nozo, and Starseeker Setsu are basically like your A tier backliners. Especially on Advanced Plus and Challenge type songs, because they give everybody a 5% increase. The difference with all three of these cards, right, aside from attribute, is stat line. If we look at Initial Kanon's stat line at max limit break, 11,934, 5304, 9282. Nozo, 11,234, 6884, 9638. Okay, so already stat lines between the cards, Kanon is a little bit better. When we go all the way down to Setsu and we look at Setsu's stat line is way better than both of those cards put together. Right? 13,464, 9087, and 11,106. So if, as far as like having cards that like you want to put with your bracelet strategies, Setsuna is the card. However, right, you're going to have to try to scout this card, number one. Number two, Magical Time Nozo and Initial Kanon are basically almost... Well, Initial Kanon is almost 3 years old at this point as a card. Magical Time Nozo is about a little under 2 years old as a card. it is much more likely for you to have both of these cards at max limit break than it will be to have Setsuna. Right? Setsuna, if you pull her and you want to use her to replace an initial Kanan or Magical Time Nozzle, you're going to have to invest 5 limit breaks either worth of Radiance or School Idol Wishes. And while her stats are better, I don't think it's worth it to put that much of investment into a backliner that you may use. Especially if you already have First Fest Kanata and Party Setsu. Like, if you have both of those cards, you're rarely ever going to use the Setsuna. So it doesn't make sense for you to go out of your way to try to scout it and then put limit breaks on it and then put insights on it. It's not worth it. You're much better off saving your gems for whatever we get for second and a half global anniversary or third year anniversary for JP, which is actually coming up at the end of September. So yeah, if it was me and, you know, I'm still like missing, even if I'm still missing, you know, a lot of the great, you know, quote unquote backliners, I still wouldn't scout for this card just because we have 2 big events coming up in the next 2 months in Global 2.5 anniversary and JP 3-year anniversary. And I would much rather save gems for one of those quote unquote S tier backliners and hope to get them there versus investing a whole bunch trying to chase for this Setsuna. And then the last card is Star Seeker Umi. Natural Attribute SK type, 12,983 base appeal, 6,834 base stam, 14,350 base technique. So 58% crit rate. Tap active wise, I don't love what this Umi has. It's a crit rate increase by 30% for the next 3 notes. And it's for her strategy only. I love how much the crit rate increase is. But it's only for 3 notes, so it's a little bit harder to kind of overlap her skills and make sure your cards are critting all the time. I would much rather take a card that, like, has a 24% crit rate increase for the next 4 or 5 notes. I would much rather have something like that than 30% for 3 notes. For me, personally, I like a little bit more consistency and a ability to overlap these type of skill actives than, you know, buffing it for a short amount of period. The only exception for this would be damage reduction cards. Damage reduction cards, you want the big numbers in a short amount of time. But for basically everything else, I would much rather have, you know, lower increase over a slightly longer period of notes. Passive and live show active wise, the card is okay. Same attribute appeal buff, so 5.2% appeal buff to other natural attribute cards, and a stamina heal guaranteed for every appeal chance. And luckily, the stamina heal is based off of her technique. 6% of Umi's technique. So 6% of this base 14,350. The one sort of issue I have with this card, though, the skills are all over the place, right? You have a tap active that increases crit rate. You have a passive that increases appeal. And a live show active that gives a stamina heal. Like, none of it lines up. It's just like this hodgepodge of skills that they're just like, okay, yeah, just give these to Umi. Would she be okay if you needed a strong natural attribute center 3 card? Yeah, for sure. Because she has nearly 13,000 base appeal and she has over 14,000 base technique. That's really good for your center 3 SP gauge voltage values. How often am I using this card though? Not a ton. You know, maybe this is definitely a card if you wanted to run this with, say, Third Fest Nico on Bokuran no Life, Kimito no Life in August for the Advanced Plus, this would definitely be an option. But would I scout for it? Nah. I don't think there's a big enough difference between this card and Second Fest Rin that would cause me to say, oh yeah, you need to scout this card if you want to compete in the Advanced Plus Voltage rankings next month. You don't need this card. Would it be nice to get it? Sure. If you're an Umi Oshi and you want to try to get this card, sure. By all means, go ahead. But don't forget, Umi has not gotten her third Fest card yet. So, for those of you that are on a budget and are waiting for Umi's next Fest card, I would probably pass this and just wait. Even if you end up having more gems than you need to for a Spark by the time Third Fest Umi comes around, I would still rather save than put yourself in a difficult position trying to scout for this card and just wasting gems. Getting, cards off of the non-limited pool. But yeah. Final verdict. I think the best card of these is Setsuna. But I still wouldn't go out of my way to scout for it. If you happen upon it and you feel like you need a backliner, sure. She can also be a decent frontliner. She has a good enough base appeal stat to be a good pure attribute frontliner, but again, unless you're tiering, I wouldn't go out of my way to scout for this card. And even if you are tiering, you're not getting any extra added bonuses other than helping you to clear the shop out quicker. So yeah, that's it for this instant analysis. Come join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/IamTheShaz. Here normally 4 to 5 days a week, depending on my work schedule. And today we're doing SBL runs. Oh boy. Yeah, come join us whenever. Take it easy. We'll see y'all later. Bye.